Hi, I bet you're wondering what I'm doing here. I'm Pete McCall, the author of the Ace Fitness article on the anatomy of the lower leg. Mobility routine that you can teach your clients to help them reduce the risk of the injury to the Achilles tendon. Achilles tendon injuries have been in the news quite a bit lately, and there's no really way to know exactly what causes an Achilles tendon tear. First, the Achilles tendon is that tendon that attaches your calf muscles to the base of your calcaneus, your heel bone. The soleus and the gastrocnemius bleed into the tendon and they attach to the bone. Now, muscle is a contractile element, that's the actin myosin, and they contract, and when they contract, they generate force. Around each individual muscle fiber is fascia, elastic fascia, and that's what the tendon is. The tendon is primarily elastic tissue. Now, there's no way to know the exact mechanism of injury for an Achilles injury. One of the things we've seen is it's a lot from a sudden change of direction. If I'm running and I have to plant my foot to decelerate and make a sudden change of direction, if the tissue's not warmed up properly, there's a lot of load that goes into that. Remember, ground reaction force, every time we step on the ground, there's a force coming up into us. So if we go to sudden stop and change direction, or if you have a client that plays a sport like basketball or pickleball or tennis, and they go to make a sudden stop and change the direction, if the tissue's not properly prepared and all that force goes right into the tendon, that's where you get an injury. And a lot of people will think, okay, I can come in, I can stretch, and boom, they're ready to go. Now, stretching is okay, and that's part of the warm-up here, but that's not the only thing we should be doing. If we want to reduce the risk of injury, we need to increase motor spindle activity. We need to warm up the tissue, and we need to warm up that fascia and elastic tissue that compromises the tendon, or that makes up the tendon, that's the components of the tendon. So what I'm going to show you here is a multi-phase progression for how to warm up. But first, two things. One, hydration. Muscle tissue is primarily water, and muscle slides across one another in layers. And so if we get dehydrated, if clients get dehydrated, those layers become like sandpaper. There's no way to know if that could be a mechanism of injury, but that could be a cause of it. So have your clients, if they're going to go out and play basketball, tennis, pickleball at night, have them stay hydrated during the day. Now, the next thing is wearing shoes. Most professional dress shoes have a little bit of an elevated heel, and even men's shoes and men's work boots have a quarter to a half inch elevated heel. Now, why is that important? That's important because the heel is elevated, and that puts the calf muscle and the Achilles tendon in a shortened position all day. So if you're working with clients that play sports in the evening after work, encourage them to wear flat-soled shoes that day before they go out to play or practice, whatever, because that's going to set them up for success already. If they're in heels all day, men with a dress shoe, women with a little bit of a heel, and they go out and do something active at night, they're going to have to spend more time to properly warm up those tissues. So hydration and footwear, two things to keep in mind for this. So I think one mechanism of injury, or one cause of Achilles injury, might be that people come in, I'm gonna play something today, let me stretch my calf. Stretching, what I just showed, static stretching, is really good. That can lengthen the muscle. That lengthens the muscle. We're putting force on the muscle and we're lengthening it. We do want to do that. But what we want to do is we want to lean into the pole, lean into something solid, push the heel on the ground, push that calcaneus down and lean into it, and have clients hold that for about 30 to 45 seconds. What that's doing is lengthening the tissue, but also relaxes the tissue. So one, maybe two sets, depending on time. Now, for the third set, I'm going to show you something dynamic. And dynamic just means we're adding movement. So now what I'm going to do is push the left heel into the ground. I'm going to take my right leg, and I'm going to rotate my right leg just across my body. I don't know if you can see that, and I'll show you on this leg now. I'm pushing my right heel down. Now I'm rotating my left down. What I'm doing with this rotation is the gastroc has two heads that attach to the base of the femur. So by doing that rotation, what I'm doing is lengthening those tissues in the transverse plane. So we lengthen the tissues first with static stretching. Now we need to start adding some dynamic movement to increase motor spindle activity and to warm up the fascia. So after the leg swings, we want to do 1 or 2 sets of the stretches, 1 or 2 sets of the leg swings. I have clients do a little forward lunge to reach. Forward lunge to reach. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of a camera 2 angle here. Forward lunge to reach, forward lunge to reach. Now, this has been a favorite of mine for rugby players. I coach rugby, high school rugby, because what you're doing is you're stretching the calf and the hamstrings all the way up. So if you do this forward lunge, reach for the ground, you're stretching all those tissues. And you want to think about having clients do 8 to 12 reps on each leg, 2, maybe 3 sets, resting about 30 seconds in between. So up to now, swinging, all we're going to do is a little bit of forward lunge with reach. Keep that back heel on the ground. Now we pick up the pace a little bit and go into a little bit of dynamic activity. We go right back to what I was doing at the beginning of the video, just bouncing up and down. Now one on the balls of the feet. We don't want to let them do that. If they're bouncing, we want to let their feet stay relatively flat and their heels come all the way on the ground. This drill is not about getting height. It's about pumping fluid into the Achilles and pumping fluid into the calf muscles. We're also increasing the tissue temperature. So 15 to 20 seconds on, 15 to 20 seconds off. What I'm doing is sagittal plane. You can also do forward and back in the sagittal plane, or you can split the legs up like this, forward and back in the sagittal plane. But what you want to do is do at least 2 sets in the sagittal plane, 15 to 20 seconds, to warm those tissues up. We have 3 planes of motion. So what we're going to do next, frontal plane. In and out, nice and steady. What we're doing is putting different forces into the tissue. That's one way to do frontal plane. The other way is like that. 15 to 20 seconds on, 15 to 20 seconds off. Now we got the third plane of motion, the transverse plane. Little slalom skiing here can be a lot. Now the cool thing is, as you do these warm-ups for your calf muscles, you're also going to be warming up the hips, which is essential for any sport where you're making sudden changes of direction. So there you go, little static stretching, little dynamic movement of the lunge, little explosive movement with the bouncing, just a little bouncing. Takes anywhere 5 to 8 minutes. And ask your clients this, would you rather spend a few minutes warming up properly? Or think about it, an Achilles repair takes up to a year. Number one, it's extremely painful. Number two, the rehab process takes up to a year. So ask your clients, would you rather warm up for a few minutes or rather spend a year in recovery? There's a little warm-up sequence for you. Help your clients avoid the risk of an Achilles injury. Stay hydrated, pay attention to footwear, and warm up properly before their favorite activity.